Alrighty. One, two, three. On this episode of the show, we have a special guest named Shayne Mostyn, and we talk about, what did we talk about? See, I screwed it up already. On this episode, we have a special guest from Australia. Mr. Shayne Mostyn joins us, and we talk about making large prints with the iPhone, ReeXpose, a new app from the makers of Reflex, where you can make long exposures that are strictly just raw files. And we also talk about our recent photos. So not just Dave and I, but Shayne has some that we discuss as well. All this coming up on the iPhoneography podcast. It's Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, and this is the iPhoneography podcast. My name is Greg McMillan, and I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, Dave Podner. Hello, Dave.
Greg, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going pretty good. We also have with us a surprise guest. I think it's a surprise because we didn't really know he was coming on until about an hour ago, and but we're glad to have him here. It's Mr. Shayne Mostyn from Australia. G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you, boys?
Oh, we're good. How are you?
Pretty good.
You're in the middle of winter down there.
Oh, it is, mate. It's absolutely winter. But you happened to get me on the day where I just had this block of empty space in the middle of my day. So, hey, it worked.
Oh, here nice. Excellent. So we are going to talk about a few different things here. One of them is something that, so Shayne, have you ever listened to the iPhone photo show with Scott Bourne and Jefferson Graham? Okay. Yep. So they've talked about, like Scott says, and he's a firm believer that if you don't, like, a photo is not a photo until it's a print. And I kind of like that because when it's a print, I mean, you know, it's a photo. It's that's how photos always have been, since photography basically started. You didn't have a photo until you had a print. And, there's been a kind of a discussion or a debate about how big of a print you can make from the iPhone. And Scott, he's got some pretty nifty software. What's it called? Gigapixel or something? I forget what it's called. Yeah. I'd have to look it up.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but it does, like, a lot of AI stuff and everything else to make really big prints. So I don't have that software, but what I do have is on the last show, Dave and I talked about Camera Plus and the new update that they had, and it has a feature called Ultra Res. Now, Dave, is that part of the subscription, or is that a free part of the app?
Well, I don't know. Just because I bought the app before it was subscription.
So you're like me, you're grandfathered in.
I was grandfathered in. So I don't know if it is included or not, to be honest. I'll definitely look into that. And either way, I don't know. Like I said, we'll have to look into it and see if it's part of the free download, or even if you can do, we'll look into that and get some details. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the Ultra Res in Camera Plus, it's pretty good because it can take a 12 megapixel photo and make it 48 megapixels, which is basically twice as wide and twice as high, which that's pretty damn impressive. And it does a good job. We showed samples on the podcast last week in the podcast app on the screen. You can see the differences between, I know you're looking at a little picture on a screen, but trust me, it was pretty good, right, Dave? Like, it was really, really impressive.
You definitely notice the difference. Yeah, you definitely notice the difference. And so it's kind of, it is details that you're noticing the difference, because the iPhone takes pretty good photos on its own. Even without any editing, just as going from, I would say, if you're just taking snapshots with your iPhone, the quality you're getting just from holding it up, taking a photo, if you have pretty decent lighting, it's pretty damn good just as is. But when you kind of zoom in for the details or try to push the limits, that's where the phone can kind of But yeah, doing the extra, even though you're not really getting 48 megapixel because you can't get more than what they physically build in.
Right.
Machine learning does a good job about getting the extra details without looking crunchy.
Yeah,
which
sure.
Which is a nice thing. Now,
have you
one
tried?
thing that you...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to mention something that we had questions about on the last show that they answered you on Twitter, that they're just calling the app Camera Plus with the plus sign.
Yeah.
And then a 22 for the year.
Yeah.
Because it was Camera Plus, the number 2. Right. And then all of a sudden we see Camera Plus 2.2. Is it 2.2? Is it 2 something else?
And I think that's only going to be on the App Store where they put the 22 on there. Because I think in general, they just want to call it Camera Plus and leave it at that. Because one thing they said was the numbering and all that stuff was getting too complicated. Did you try it, Shayne? Did you try Camera Plus with the new update?
Yep.
What do you think?
Yep. I'm quite impressed by it. I've actually sent some images off to get printed. So
nice.
Once they get back, then you'll see a video about it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Some will be, I anticipate some will be not quite so good. I think I've kind of overreached a little bit and gone to an AO print, but we'll see what I get. Because I've got, you may remember I did a video about printing from phones, and I printed a 108 megapixel from the, what was that?
Yep.
S21, I think it might have been. Yeah. I haven't printed anything off that one yet. Not the S22, but it must have been the S21.
Okay.
So I've sent off for a print, for a poster size print from an iPhone. So we'll see what we get. It might turn out to be, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the other way of enlarging a print, and you can do it on the iPhone app, or there's a Mac app, and that's with Pixelmator Pro. On the phone, it's called Pixelmator Photo, and on the Mac, it's called Pixelmator Pro. And what it does is it has a thing called super resolution, and that's what I use for the print that I got done. It's a photo of the house that my parents are living in. My mom grew up in this house, so basically, it's called the homestead, or what, that type of thing. And next year, there's going to be a big family reunion. My mom has a very big family, and there's going to probably be enough people there to populate a small town. It's going to be crazy. So this photo I had done, it's a picture of that place in the fall. There's going to be leaves all over the place, and it's going to be auctioned off to help pay for some of the costs of this family reunion. And so when I did the super resolution in Pixelmator Pro on my Mac, it doesn't go a full 48 megapixel like Camera Plus does, but it does. I'd have to look at the numbers, but it's almost like it's maybe 1.5 times original size, not 2 times. But it's pretty good. So when I did this thing and I looked at the image on the screen, I added some grain just so that it didn't look like it was artificially blown up, and it worked. It really worked well. So I will probably put this on my website, this photo on my website, because on there I have some things called the story behind the photo, or some darn thing. It's been so long since I've done it, I forget, but that kind of thing. So I have a picture and then a little write up about how the photo came to be. So, but yeah, it turned out great. I look at it here, and even up close, it looks really good. The folks in town that printed it, they were quite impressed with how it turned out. And I want to go bigger. What's the biggest you've done so far, Shayne, not including the ones you're waiting on?
From iPhone?
Yeah.
A2 size. I'm not sure what inches is that. But A2 is basically 2 A3s. You guys don't use that sort of paper, do you?
It's probably in a list.
I just actually looked it up. A2 is 16 inches by 23 inches.
Okay. That's pretty good.
So if you think letter size, for most people, it's kind of
twice that.
Yeah, it's like 2 letter sides.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
To approximate
Okay.
it. Which I know where the A0, A1, A2, A3 makes perfect sense in terms of why it's developed.
Yep.
So of course Americans and anyone else uses imperial. Of course we don't use it. No, we use 8.5 by 11 for letter size. We use halfsies because we're Americans. We don't like anything easy. We like to measure in thirds and quarters and quarts.
I'll be honest with you. We use the terms like 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, rather than A2, A3, that sort of thing. At least I do anyway.
Yeah. Well,
it's because you're so close to them, mate. Yeah.
We're very
Americans
doing.
Yeah.
We're very
you know them to
by
invade
them.
for the sake of sizes of paper.
Yeah. But we do use Celsius and kilometers, not Fahrenheit and miles.
We're slowly winning you over.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you don't do any in the printing that you do. You don't do any of the A's. Because it's AO all the way down to like A5, A6. Then it gets into the B's, which are different.
Really?
Anyway, yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, the printing that I do at work is it's not even related to that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We use rolls of paper that are as big as 70.5 inches and weigh about 6,000, 7,000 pounds. That's the kind of paper we work with. And then, of course, that's about the biggest and heaviest. And then it just gets narrower and smaller from there, and lighter rather.
Yep.
Like the roll of paper would stand probably, I've seen them up to my chest.
Sure.
And I'm 5'10" or 180 centimeters. So that's
when I used to work for Xerox many years ago. And I worked at the Olympics in Sydney. Xerox is a big sponsor of the Olympics. And I was one of, I think there was 200 of us who were technicians to fix the printers and fax machines and all that sort of stuff if they ever broke down. And you had a turnaround time of I think it was like 90 seconds or something. If you couldn't get this thing fixed in 90 seconds, there's another one sitting beside it. You just plug everything into that. So there was all the results printing and stuff. But when you went into the media center, everything was in all this legal sizes, like all those. So all of us Aussie technicians were going in there with reams of paper with A4 and A3 paper. You walk in and go, what is in there? What is that? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Take that back home with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how borders can make things so different.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of a discussion on large prints. It can definitely be done with iPhone photos, and I say to anyone and everyone, get something printed large just to see how it looks. It's I don't have the means to print it at home. All I can do is 8.5 by. I could probably do a panoramic of some sort if I had the right paper in my printer, but I basically just do 8 by 10. And but the folks that printed this one for me, they have a large format printer at their home. They don't do it in the store; they do it in their home, and it turned out fantastic. I'm really impressed with the quality and the paper. It's on a nice satin finish paper and just sitting in a frame and looks really good. So I highly recommend people getting prints.
I think that when you started this, you're talking about Scott and saying about on his podcast how he's saying it's not a photo until it's printed. You think about you go somewhere and like that photo that you've just shown us there, the house at the background there, you had a story about that.
Yeah.
Now, if that wasn't sitting behind you now, and I do the same. I've done videos where I've gone to different places in my house, and some of my artwork's on the wall behind me, and that's all through my house. All photos, except with the exception of one, all through my house are all photos that I've taken. They're all framed and hanging on the wall. And you have conversations with people. They come around, they see some of your work and they go, where was this? And you tell them a story. It's not like that sort of conversation happens when you pull a phone out of your pocket and say, hold on, I've got something to show you. It just doesn't have the same impact. So while it's hanging on the wall, it does that. It creates that conversation and the storytelling around your photo and the journey that you took to get to that. But it also, for me, and I dare say this is the same for you when you printed that, is that as soon as it's there and it's hanging on the wall, it's not in digital format anymore, and it's all of a sudden real, and you can touch it, and you can move it around. It's. I think it brings it to another level. I totally agree that it's not a photo until it's printed out.
Yeah. That's a good point about the story, telling the story. I mean, a photo could tell a story. Yeah. I mean, you could put a photo on Instagram and, put a little blurb on there and it could tell a little story. But the conversation, like you say, it's the conversation that comes out from looking at a photo like that, a tactile print in your hand. That's where it really becomes a photograph in the true form of the word. So, that's a very good point. So folks, get a large print done. It's worth it. Before we go any further, we should have done this earlier, Shayne, but in case we have any listeners that might not know who you are, care to explain yourself in a tweet?
For those that don't know, that's exactly what I tell people when they come on as a guest on my show, on my live streams. Tell us who you are in a tweet. I'm just trying to remember that spiel I used to do because I don't really do it anymore. When I first started the YouTube channel,
because you're famous now.
He's up there. I'm just trying to remember the wording that I used to use. I'm going to see if I can do it without screwing it up. I do 2 videos each and every week, all about small sets of photography, generally in low light. So if you're into that, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. And if you've already done that, you're a
bloody legend.
So basically, I've got a YouTube channel taking also exactly my one of yours, mate. The one I should have. It's in the dishwasher. Is the iPhoneography podcast one. For those who are only listening to what we're doing right now, Greg just held up his coffee cup with my logo on it, and I'm explaining that his one that I have is in the dishwasher. But basically, I have the YouTube channel. It's all about mobile photography. Occasionally, I'll go out of that with maybe some action camera stuff or small sensor stuff, and generally in low light. So if you had to pigeonhole me, I guess you would say it's more about astrophotography with phones. Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a very unique niche in the mobile space.
Yep, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to be learned. Oh yeah, sure, that's good. That's great. I mean, there's a lot to be learned from it. You've been on the show before, so people probably have heard you. And I don't know if we did video when you were on last time or not, but they must have heard of you by now. I mean, I've talked about you before. I've held up my cup and
they must have heard of you by now.
They must have heard of you by now.
Actually, I remember when you when I first came on. I don't. Dave wasn't on the show when I first came on. It was just you and I.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where you were. I'm not sure where you were that time, Dave. Maybe you said this.
Might have been a timing. It was timing. Yeah. It was timing. I think it was a matter of I was in the office that day and probably on my way home on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you were putting comments on videos, and I'm like, "Who is this Greg McMillan guy?" He keeps on asking me to like come on his show or something. I'm like, "Who is this guy?"
Still nobody knows.
I've actually got one of your photos in one of them. I might have put both in there. That you sent me for the app that I've just finished the video for.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Okay.
So you're about to be famous, Greg.
Ooh. I'm going to need all the help I can get.
I'll make a comment about 2 guys who speak funny, because I've got one from you and I've got one from the English bloke, the redheaded English bloke.
The redheaded English bloke.
The other Dave.
Yeah. Okay. So that's talking about large prints and an intro to Shayne. Now let's talk about this app. And I know it's safe to discuss it openly now, because by the time this podcast hits the airwaves, it will be in the App Store. And it's from the makers of Reflex, and it's called ReeXpose. So it's spelled REE capital XPOSE, ReeXpose. Basically that's branded like Reflex. Reflex is REE Flex. And Shayne and I have been beta testing this thing, and we've tried a few things out with it. And I don't know about you, Shayne, but I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, and also here's what it is. It's long exposure, and it only does RAW. You can't shoot a JPEG or a hike or a HEIF or whatever you want to call it. With this app, it's only RAW. So, what do you think, Shayne? Is it a winner?
I think so. I think with the original Reflex app, what's it called? Reflex Pro Camera app, the original one. It's I quite like that because it's so easy for someone who uses like that, a DSLR camera, and who are used to shooting manually, adjusting ISOs, adjusting white balance, adjusting your shutter speed, etc. So I think it's a very good it's a good app. I'll rewind a little bit. I think, especially with the stuff that I do on my channel, I think that it's a good step for people who are going to go into astrophotography, as an example, but can't really justify spending big dollars on mirrorless or DSLR cameras. It's a good way to put your toe in the water. And using an app like Reflex, because it's got all of those manual controls in there, I think it's the next step, if you like. I've been able to take photos of the stars with my iPhone. That's great. Let's do something a bit more technical, like light trails or star trails, a long exposure thing. Well, with the original Reflex app, well, that did that, and it did it really well in JPEG only. So you started here with your iPhone, and you've got a manual app in here that just shoots JPEG. And then the next level would be, in my head, is the obvious thing, is to shoot RAW with those same manual controls. So that's what this does. It shoots exactly what it used to shoot before, but in RAW. And of course, the RAW power in that is the editing. You can get so much more out of your edit with a RAW file than what you can with a JPEG.
Yeah. And the only thing that's missing, and I hope they can put it in, I don't know if it's possible. I mean, I don't know, is the adjusting the exposure value, like the EV slider that's in it's in the Reflex Pro camera. I would love to see it in this app. I think it would give that much more flexibility. So I'm going to pull up an image, and let me see here. I'm going to do this, and I'm not even going to edit this lengthy pause out. Because this is real, folks. This is how it is. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with the guys, and this was my very, very first shot I tried with ReeXpose. And folks, if you're listening, look on your phone screen. You'll be able to see it in your podcast app. It is a pinkish magenta hot mess. And this is what happens when you try to shoot a raw long exposure and it's overexposed big time. And I mean, you've seen this, Shayne, in even longer it's happened. Not I mean, this is an extreme bad example, but this is basically what happens when things get overexposed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know if you guys noticed it. I was just showing you my phone on the camera.
Oh yeah.
And there's one of my first ones from this app, and it's a lovely magenta cast as well.
Yeah. So I sat out in front of my house after dark, well after dark, and not well after dark, because it was you could still see some blue sky in the better images here. So let me see here. The next one is, this is when I dialed down the ISO. I just made some adjustments in the exposure to darken down the image. And when I did this, I did it while there was no cars going by. So folks, what this is just a shot of the street in front of my house with cars going by, and I was doing light trails of the headlights and taillights as they went by. And there's the way the roads go, you can go straight across in front of my house, or you can turn on this other street and then another street. It almost looks like an S pattern with the taillights of this car. So when I got the exposure and the I think the color temperature was a big factor too, because I dialed it way down. And basically what I was looking at on my phone screen was matching what I was looking at the street for color tint and all that stuff. And then when I saw cars coming, I set the exposure for 30 seconds with a 3-second timer. And then when I saw headlights coming in the distance, I would hit the timer and just let it go. And so this was, it looked like a car going straight across to the right in front of me, and then one going kind of zigzagging through the streets here. And all you can see is the taillights. And you can see that the road is lit up quite brightly from the headlights. And then when I did the edit I believe I did it in raw power, everything looks fine. Like the lights, there's no magenta hue. There's no, there's none of that pink cast in the lights. I've discovered that is overexposed pixels that can't be recovered. You can't recover the data from those from that overexposure. So the key I find is to shoot underexposed, because and this goes against everything I learned in digital photography with my DSLR when I would expose to the right. Yep. I still see tutorials on YouTube today where the guys will say expose to the right. And that is so that when you put it through, and this is all shooting raw, and when you post-process those, you can darken it down, because you can recover data from the highlights as long as it's not too overly exposed. But when you if you shoot, and when I say shoot to the right, that's the histogram. Put the exposure so that the histogram just goes to as far as it can to the right without being clipped off. And in DSLR photography, you can adjust that exposure in your raw processing to bring it down, to darken it down, because basically everything from the center over to the right is all one stop, and all that information can be brought back and give you a great image. If you put everything to the left, where everything's dark in a DSLR, and you try to stretch that out, you're working with smaller areas of the histogram, and you're trying to stretch them out. And I like to compare that to pizza dough. If you're taking pizza dough that's made for a 6-inch pizza, and you're trying to stretch it out to make a 24-inch pizza, it's going to be full of holes. And those holes are like the noise in an image. So that's basically what it's like with DSLR work. For some reason, mobile photography is different. At least I can only speak for the iPhone. Shayne, you can, speak on the Android stuff because you have some. But when you shoot to the left and things are quite dark with the iPhone, you can recover those dark areas quite easily compared to a DSLR. And I don't know why that is, but it just seems to work. And it must have everything to do with the computational stuff. But so I'm going to show you another one. I was actually doing some testing today, and this is in my backyard. And this was underexposed so much that, so what it is, it's a little windmill and a bird bath in my backyard. And it's just completely black in the background. And the windmill has these white paint on the tips, so that when the wind's blowing and it's spinning around, you can see this white ring or whatever. And when I shot this, I underexposed it so much purposefully, so that when I looked at the histogram, there was barely anything on the right-hand side. So then when I processed it in raw power, there's what's behind it. You could pull the detail out of the dark so easy. So, to process this, there was a lot involved. Like there was, the recovery slider and all that stuff. The recovery slider will help you retain the highlights. The exposure slider, brightness, contrast. I reduced the black point a lot. There's a lot involved in processing this, but there's no magenta cast in that white part of the windmill there, whereas there was in some of the other shots I took that weren't underexposed. So it's, I found, for me, that's the ticket to getting a proper raw long exposure out of these apps. And the other good thing about that is my ISO was at the lowest point. It was ISO 25. So with that, there's no noise. You can blow that up, and there's no noise in the darker areas of the image.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
Now, Greg, did you use a tripod for these?
Yes.
Does it require you a tripod? Okay, so this is one that requires more of a tripod versus the handheld.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do an artistic type of photo by doing it handheld, ICM or intentional camera movement, and it works great. But if you want to do like a long exposure like this, where basically everything is static except for in this case it's a windmill, where the windmill's blurry, then you definitely need a tripod or one of those Joby things you can wrap around a tree branch or something like that. But you gotta have it held still. And I'll show you another one that I did of. We took the dog for a walk this evening down by what we call the Mill Dam in town here, and this was the original. I just had a little miniature tripod that I put on a concrete, like a barrier or whatever, and I tried a few different exposures, and I found this. It was good. I thought it might be tricky because of the sun coming through some of the branches and hitting the water here, but I managed to keep the histogram within the limits. So then when I did the edit in Pro Raw, it has some nice lens flare because the sun was kind of just hitting the phone at a bit of an angle here. But, again, details come back in the shadow areas where there was like nothing but black looking at the raw file. And like over here on the top left corner, you got grass.
Yeah.
Looking at the original image, you'd never know that was there. Nope. And this is 4 seconds, I believe. So the key to doing this, I found in my testing today, was keep the ISO as low as you can. That way you don't get the noise. And just play with your shutter speed until you get the exposure that you want. And, again, massively underexposed. It looks like you totally botched the image, but by the time you're done with the processing, it works.
Yep. Oddly enough, when you shoot with the Reflex Pro camera app and just shoot JPEGs long exposure, you don't have any of these problems at all. This is purely a raw associative thing. The Reflex Pro camera app, it shoots those long exposures as a HDR. So it does all this for you. So unless you have a genuine need to shoot raw or something, I would probably stay with the JPEG, to be honest. It's stuff where there's a massive dynamic range that you're trying to capture and you're not happy with how the Apple HDR looks. that's when I'd be looking at an app like this. I just sent you. I don't know if you've got it yet. You're all the way on the other side of the world, but I just sent you another photo.
I have it. I'll.
Yeah, that photo is exactly the same photo that I sent to you earlier today. That's just the edited version, and it really demonstrates bringing out those blacks out of that raw image from this app.
Yeah. Okay, I'll pull that up now.
This is what happens when you bring me on your show.
Yeah.
It's just like one of my live streams. It starts all really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we have a raw file from ReeXpose. And what was the length of this exposure? Because the metadata only shows what the shutter speed was set at. It doesn't show you the combined.
Exactly. This is a 2-hour-long photo.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Neat.
2 hours long, all the star trails. The metadata from this one, actually, I don't know what I must. Will I be able to show you? Be able to see or not? 1 second. I'm just going to check another app to see another the even longer app to see if it shows me. No, it does it as well. Even longer will only show you the 1 second as well. It doesn't show you the whole lot.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So this one here you can see it there, all the metadata there. So the key that I found with this was pretty similar to what you were talking about before. You can still see here that magenta cast, through that image.
A very little bit, yeah.
And if I took the ISO up as high as 400, it's horrid. It's like the whole thing is purple. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If I bring it below 300, I lose too many stars in this image. And there's a lot of stars in this for a nice long photo. It's I think I sent this one of the edited one of these to you, didn't I?
Yes.
With the 3 photos that we'll talk about later. But we can refer back to that one, I guess, and you can see how much you can recover. And the magenta cast that's through this, it's not when you've got the settings, especially for what I do, the low light stuff, when you've got these settings here, these base settings of around 320 to 350 ISO, depending on how dark everything is for you, this is in my mind, this is a tolerable amount of magenta cast. I can fix this in the edit. And it's a raw file, so you're going to edit it anyway. So I look at that and go, well, I can fix that. I can deal with that.
And the one thing I'm noticing that I didn't notice at first about this photo is the basketball blackboard in the foreground.
Yep. So
if you weren't looking real close, you wouldn't even know what what it is for one, or if it's even there.
That's right. But when we look at this other photo later, it actually is this photo, and that you wouldn't think that they're the same photo. But it's how much you can recover from the dark in this. It's pretty good. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind because I can't wrap my head around the difference between a traditional camera and a mobile sensor, like the small sensor. Like why is it different? Why is it exposed to the right in a DSLR and just massively underexposed in a phone? I don't get it. I know it's got a lot to do with computational stuff. That's the only thing that's different really between the two. But I mean, raw is raw, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
So Apple, if you're listening, talk to me.
True RAW and then Pro RAW are not the same.
No, that's right.
RAW is the same.
Yeah.
And I think with all these different manufacturers having, there's a couple of different things that most of these apps that are shooting RAW now have got different problems depending on the level of iOS that you have on your phone. Most of them on an overexposed image is going to give you that magenta cast with the raw file. And the other thing that seems to happen randomly with raw files, and it happens to all of them, is that it doesn't always save it to your camera roll. I don't know if have you encountered that?
Yeah.
when I was doing some testing with Mario when he was launching maybe the Star Trail stuff, I think it might have been, with Even Longer. I was taking all these photos and for what I did, like I said, that's a 2-hour photo there. And I know that with Even Longer, I was doing like 8-9 hour long photos. And there's nothing more devastating for you than getting up in the morning, going out and checking your phone, and there's nothing there. It's like, where is this photo?
And that's why Halide has put in an image rescue feature in their app. And
that's one way to call it that. They all have it. They all do it. So Even Longer has, let me tell you what the exact wording is, because they all do it now. I think everyone's recognized that, hey, this is a problem. What do we need to do to fix it? What's it called? Sorry, mate.
That's all right.
Can't see it there. But I know I've seen it in there before. I just can't see it there right now. And even this one that we're talking about, this ReeXpose, if in there you've got these capture options and you've got this enable backup business, and both of those apps are going to send the same file to your Files app, I think, on the phone.
Yeah, so basically your iCloud Drive. Yeah. So I don't have that turned on in ReeXpose, so maybe I should do that.
If you're going to go out and take 2-hour long photos and you don't want to be disappointed if it's not there, turn it on.
Yeah. But I guess, you would only want to have it on for situations like that. You wouldn't want to have it on all the time, I guess, because that's going to fill up your iCloud space.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because RAW files are bigger. I don't think these are as big as Pro RAW files by any means, but still, they're going to take up some room.
I think that one I just sent you was like 8 meg or 9 meg or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 8.8. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure what.
But a Pro RAW file, they could be they could be 25 and higher megabytes.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, but it's because it has that image pipeline built on top of it, right?
Yes.
So I mean, it's a lot more complex of a file.
Yeah. In fact, that other one that I sent you with the Galactic Core, I just had a look there. That's nearly 36 megabytes.
Oh wow! There you go.
Yeah. Anywho.
Yeah. So that's ReeXpose. It's coming out. Well, it'll be out by the time you hear this. July 7th in. I would say when it's released, it'll be July 7th for the team. They're in Europe. So I'm not sure what time of day it will come out, but keep an eye on the App Store for it. I have no idea what the price is or anything.
$5.
There's $5. Okay, that's
$5.
not bad.
$4.99 US.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's a one-time purchase and not a subscription, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's excellent then.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a hell of a deal. And it's like their Reflex Pro camera. When I got it, I believe it was free to use, but with an in-app purchase for the long exposure stuff, which was, I think it was $5 at that time. I don't know what it is now, but yeah.
I honestly don't know what it is now. I know that when they launched the long exposure stuff, they had a special running, like a discount running for the first, I don't know, 2 days or 3 days or something like that. But I much personally, I prefer the app that you just buy and it's mine now. I don't want to have to pay you every year for it or every month for it, depending on. I don't like the subscription model as a customer. I don't like that. It's I'm actually building I'm only on the board at the moment a video to compare different phone photography apps, and the pricing is definitely one of the criteria. I don't like the subscription thing. And I see people commenting on my videos when I do a video about a particular app, and I might have Lightroom because I love Lightroom. I use it for all my professional work. I use it for all of the phone stuff that I use on YouTube. And so many people are, I'm not paying $9 or whatever it is a month for that. But I've used it forever. I'm just used to paying. That's what you pay for that quality product. But before the whole Creative Cloud thing that Adobe had, I owned it, and I much prefer that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that when that came out, that upset a lot of people, that already owned the program. And so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, talking about subscriptions. When Filmic First Light came out, it was a free download, but then there's what they call looks. It's kind of like filters and different things.
Yep.
The way you can change the way the image looks and all that stuff. You can do that before you take the shot. A lot of that stuff was added in as a in-app purchase, and then they went to a subscription model. And after a few weeks of listening to all the flack that they got from people, they decided to make it bang. Okay, we're going to change this to a one-time purchase. So if you've already signed up for a subscription, for a 1-year subscription, which I did, then bang, okay, here you go. You own the app. That's you've paid your fee. Now, as far as people that were on a monthly goes, I don't know how that worked for them, but they listened to the feedback from a lot of negative feedback from people, and decided, ooh, okay, this ain't good. So here you go. We're going to make it a one-time purchase. And like you, I really prefer that too. I'd sooner pay, like, for even longer. I think I paid like $40, but
correct.
Now it's mine. I get the updates, all that stuff. I don't have to worry about it. People might think I'm crazy to pay that much for a camera app on a phone, but I mean, it's a great app. It is. And you have to appreciate what goes into these. Like for Mario, and even longer, it was his after work project that he did in the evenings, and took him well over a year to put it together and make it. I mean, he was the first one to come out with raw long exposure, and it was pure genius. Yep.
And look, I still think I absolutely rate that highly. I think the subscription model, I think, depending on it works for some products. Even though I just said what I said about Lightroom, every single update that comes down for Lightroom, I get it automatically for the same price that I've always paid. Whereas you look at what Reflex is doing, and you go, well, here's the app, and you can have it for free. But if you want to do this, you're going to pay extra for that. And if they did something else, you'd probably pay extra for that. If they did something else, you'd probably pay extra for that. So I kind of get both camps of it. But it still comes back to that conversation that I have with everyone. In Australia, that phone there is $1,800. And we're quibbling over a bloody $14 a month or something. It's
I paid almost $2,000 for this.
Yep.
My 12 Pro Max. And I mean, I took a course. Let's just say I tried to take a course on Swift, and I was going to try to, make my own app and everything else. But because my job got in the way, I mean, that's something that you need to almost put full-time effort in order to learn it, because I don't know how these guys do it. It's a whole new language. Yeah. What's that, Dave?
I would say, especially, I would say, just like I said, it's a new language, but just programming itself. This isn't back in the day, Hello World Basic.
Yeah.
The programming is with object-oriented programming, and even what they're doing now, it's a completely different mindset from Basic, Pascal, Fortran, all the old programming languages that were straightforward. Now it's, you have to pull here and pull from here and pull from here and pull from here, and it's a complete mindset where that's why so many people who do make apps have programmers. So you can say, this is what I want to do. I have the idea and I want this and I want to look this way, but I don't know the deep, dark secrets of programming, which is a pain in the butt. Unless that's the main thing you do. And very few people have both I'm on the user side, I'm on the programming side, and I could, do the whole in one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to be, especially when you've got another gig that you're doing, I think that you've got to be pretty bloody passionate about doing what you're doing. Like I talked to Salvo, the programmer, if you like, for Reflex, and you can just tell he absolutely loves doing what he does. And when I throw curly questions at him saying, "Hey, I want to be able to do this and this and this," and you can just see it, the gears in their head are turning, and he's like, "I reckon I could get that to work, Shayne." You know, it's clear that he's very passionate about it. So when he's off doing, and the same with Mario. When I talk to Mario, that's exactly the same thing. Like these guys are busy in their own lives, making their own, working in their day job. But you can just tell that they're passionate about it, and the gears are turning. I reckon I could get that to do what you want me to get it to do.
Yeah. They can't wait to get home and get to that computer and sit down and do it. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, I know how. Mate. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I know how difficult it is because I tried that course and I didn't get far in it because I couldn't keep up to it. I couldn't. Not that there was, I had to do this, and this, and this time, and this time, and this time. It was basically on my own time. But things were changing in the coding industry, I guess you could say, quicker than I could learn this, where I started. And I mean, I was able to make a little app of converting dog's age from human years to people's years, or from human years, to dog years, where you type in, the age of the dog and whatever. It was so basically simple. And I thought, okay, that's really cool. But to do the stuff that they do now, with all the APIs and stuff like that, it's just mind blowing. So
everybody is different, mate. Everybody has their own skill set. Everybody has their thing that they're good at. You could probably go and talk to Salvo or Mario, any coder, and say, "I want you to host a podcast," and they're just going to fall in a heap and probably sit over in the corner and suck their thumb on the ground. It's a different skill set. Like, how many of them are going to come and want to do what you guys do every other day and put out a podcast all the time? It's just not going to happen. And the same thing could be said for the YouTube channel. They don't want to get in front of a camera. I don't want to get in front of a bloody camera either, but it's still, you've got your work that you do to make sure the power stays on in the house, and there's food in the fridge, and then you've got this other stuff on top. And I think it's a unique sort of person who is going to go and do that day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, and you've got to have a passion about it. So if that's what these guys do, and they're passionate about it, it's no different to doing what you're doing right now. It's just a different skill set.
Yes, that's right.
The mindset's the same.
Yeah. And I mean, I've talked to people who I've asked to have people on the show where their photography is fantastic, whether it's an editing skill, whatever, but they're just too shy. They think they're talking in front of a crowd of 3,000 people, but meanwhile they're just talking to Dave and I, but yet they don't want to do it because they're afraid. And that's okay. I get that. That's fine. But if you're listening and you want to come on and talk about your work, hey, open invitation.
It doesn't hurt, especially after the first bit. It doesn't hurt.
Oh yeah, like Dave, you remember when I come on Tiny Shutter?
Oh,
right. Yeah, I thought these guys were rock stars.
They were. I mean, honestly, I remember the first time. I remember the first time they had me on. That I did a quick little YouTube video on winter tips on taking photos with your iPhone, and I remember Matt asked me, "Well, you seem really relaxed on your video. How are you so relaxed?" And I told him, honestly, it's like, I'm assuming no one's watching this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm putting this out here. I'm doing it, but I'm assuming that it's going to be like 3 people who view it. And I know all 3 people, So if it gets viewed by more, I post stuff on, TikTok, or not really YouTube, but TikTok or Instagram Reels or something. It's like, wow, I have 200 people who view it. Wow, that's a lot. And occasionally there's one that goes, at least for me, crazy, then it hits thousands. And I'm like, wow.
Yep.
But I know there's people out there who, like I said, they're doing it for a living to make money. And they're getting the million views, hundreds of thousands, millions, 10 millions of views. And it's like, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. It's all relative, mate. It really is. It's all relative to what you are. I remember you've probably seen Ralph Mayhew come on my channel from time to time.
Yeah.
And Ralph and I started YouTube within a week of each other. And I reckon he's probably got, it'd be less than 5,000 subs right now. And I reckon I'm about to go over 60,000 in the next month or so. And we talk about it all the time. And I think there was a period there where he was, I don't know if he was feeling down about it, but it was certainly a negativity around the numbers. And I'm like, dude, it's 1,000 people. Put 1,000 people in your lounge room and tell me there's not a lot of people. That's 1,000 people who are consuming what you create. It's a lot of people. And even with 200 views on a video, put 200 people in your living room. Yeah. It's a lot of people. It's one or two is like, big deal. A couple of hundred people. That's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's all relative.
But the nice thing about doing this, like recording this podcast, or even when you're putting a live on, Shayne, and I've been on there 3 times now. I don't.
Yeah, you're a bit of a regular.
Kind of. But it's so fun. But I don't think of it as sitting in front of a crowd of people. I look at it as right now we record this on Zoom. And I'm looking at you guys on the screen, and that's who I'm talking to. But I know in the back of my mind, there's going to be people that listen to this later on after it comes out, and that's great. But I don't think about that. I just think about I'm in the moment. So
yep. They say that there's a lot of YouTube tutorial stuff, YouTube education stuff that I listened to a lot when I first started. I don't so much these days. I know what's kind of working for me now. And when I first started, they said there was a guy named Liron Segev. He used to host a vidIQ podcast. Very, very, very knowledgeable guy. And he's actually the guy who used to say, in a tweet, tell me who you are. That's where I got it from.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And one of the bits of advice that he had for new YouTubers was to find a person that fits in your niche, in your niche audience, give them a name, and that's who you're talking to every time. So for me, it's a male, somewhere between 30 and 50, lives in North America, and they've got a bit of dollars sitting around because they want to spend on whatever I do. So to let you in on a secret, groundbreaking stuff right here, it's you. Mm-hmm. When I'm doing a video, I'm talking to Greg. I don't say, "G'day, Greg," but I'm putting it in my head. I'm having a conversation with you because you're the sort of person that watches what I do. So when I'm out there in the middle of the bloody nowhere at night making a video all about no one, I'm talking to Greg McMillan. That's part. It's the audience that I have.
Now I'm not going to be able to sleep at night.
Okay, I'm not sure where that went.
Well, because I'll probably be thinking, okay, I wonder if he's out there talking to me right now. Should I be listening?
Just quickly, how evil was Dave's laugh just then? You listen back when you edit this.
Yeah.
It's gold.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our recent photos. So we're going to have an extra 3 to look at tonight. And so, Shayne, we will start with you. And here is the first one.
Cool. So this, you just want me to talk about the photo, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the churches in our small little hometown. And when I run in-person iPhone photography workshops, this is where I finish the workshop every single time in front of this church. And the reason I do it is because of the symmetry of the church. So the rest of the workshop is really just like different features on your phone. So maybe some, like panorama runs and things like that. Some composition stuff, things like that. And then I take them to this church and I ask them to describe this church like use one word, and the word is always symmetry. That's what someone always comes up with, symmetry. And I'm like, how can we push that symmetry aspect of this? And the whole workshop, I'm walking around with my camera bag over my shoulder, drinking from a water bottle. And we get to this point. This is actually just a footpath. And I send everyone out there to take a photo of the building, and they all come out taking the photo, holding it out chest height. That's how it works. And then I throw some water on the ground, and I turn my phone upside down and take this photo. And it blows their minds. It's like, stop thinking like a regular photographer. Use that small sensor to your advantage. So every single time that I've done a workshop in this town, there's probably been, I don't know, 80 odd workshops that I've done here, and they've all done this photo now. I think this photo really emphasizes taking advantage of that small sensor, because it's you can get it so close to the ground. Yeah.
So is there much editing in this, or is this pretty much the way it was shot?
Very, very little editing. Only some color coding. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. It's symmetrical, not only like horizontally, but vertically as well with the reflection. And obviously, I'm thinking you turn the phone upside down and just put it right down on the puddle. Pretty
exactly
much.
What I do. Yeah. So I take almost all of my photos. I hold. This is great. I'm about to show you how I hold my phone on a podcast.
Yeah.
But I basically hold it between my index finger and my little finger, and my middle two fingers, if you like, the ring finger and the long finger, I hold supporting the phone at the back, and my thumb goes around the front of it, and that's what hits the shutter button. So
and
almost
that's exactly what I do.
Oh, do you? Is that right? There you go. So almost all the photos that I take that are portrait orientation, my phone is upside down. Almost every one of them. I couldn't even tell you a photo that I've taken holding the phone up the right way. And
really,
the main reason I start, always, because it moves that perspective just that little bit lower. And I think as soon as you do, with all the photography that I do, if I get something that's just a regular sort of thing that you see day in, day out, and you can make it look a little bit different, it creates interest in that image. So all the photos that I take, they're all upside down like that, because already I'm 6 inches below what my eye sees anyway.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's a little bit different anyway. And when you're used to doing a photo like this is easy.
Yeah, I've heard from so many people who put on workshops or whatever that the key is to not just take the photo from the view of a normal view of a person, but try different angles, get low, get high, absolutely different things like that. I mean, you'd be surprised at how it'll change the scope of an image or the look of an image.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
Any thoughts, Dave, on this?
No, just like you said, not only the symmetry, just like you said, the reflection. I thought it was a natural puddle, to be honest. I didn't realize.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Just the way it is on the footpath there. But I like on the puddle, the bottom, the top of the reflection, the bottom of the puddle, how it starts to get a little wavy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't have the same sharpness all the way down.
Yep.
So just that the color without because we see so many times, and I'm guilty of it too, overblowing the colors.
Yep.
Just overdriving the colors to get that pop going on.
This is actually desaturated.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
The trees look a little calmer from the green. They're not like hit you in the face green.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yep. This is desaturated a fair bit. Yeah. The grass in the foreground, the tree on the left there, they're really nice and bright green trees and grass.
Yeah. I was so caught up with the building itself and the reflection that I really didn't put a lot of mind to the saturation of the trees. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And Dave, that's a good point about how the reflection gets blurred as it gets down near the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's probably because of motion in the water, not something that you did in post.
No, not something I did in post. I would say it's possibly more about the focal distance.
Oh, yeah.
as in being out of focus. I would say it's more about that than the puddle itself, because it seems to be a linear out of focus area there. Yeah.
And it takes an abrupt change too. Like it changes quickly from, so I'm going to say there's probably a little bit of water movement in there, but
it maybe.
Yeah.
But this building there, the building that we just had, that church building there, so I've done a video you would have seen with that Massey Ferguson tractor in the Astro, and I was basically going, this is what I took with a DSLR many years ago, and I'm going to try and replicate that. And this building here is another one of those. So there'll be a video coming. I haven't made the video yet, but it's on my list of videos to make of exactly the same thing here with Olympus cameras. I don't know if you know, with Olympus, they've got this functionality called live comp, which means live composition, I think it stands for. It's short for.
I've heard of that.
And basically, it's a light painter's dream. It's a fantastic camera for Olympus systems are just built for light painting. And what I did with this photo here, with this building, I should say, in that photo, is I spun a ball of light, the like LEDs on the end of a string sort of thing, and made a sphere of light. And I did that right in the middle, in the center of this building. And the way I did it with the Olympus is I sat there spinning it. Then I'd go and look on the back of the camera after I spun it and go, that's not a good light ball. So I cancel that photo, start it again, go spin the ball again, come back. That's a good sphere, it's a good round ball. Then I got a torch and then light painted in a bit of the church on the left-hand side, go back and look at it. You can see it's lit up, and you basically build the photo with light. It's an incredible tool to have. Reflex does exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
That's where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the second one is what we were talking about earlier with the star trails. And this is the edited version.
Yeah. So you can see how much of the detail has been pulled out of the backboard there. It's in the original photo, that's just black. You can only just make out that it's a basketball hoop. So this one here has been edited in Lightroom. You can still slightly see some of the magenta around. It's almost like a magenta vignette. And what I noticed when I pulled this photo in after it was all done, where I've had this set for the 2 hours, I'm guessing one of my cats has got out there and bumped it, because you can see through the whole image on some of the longer star trails. See down the bottom left-hand corner, it's moved just that little bit, that star trail. It's moved just that little bit. Yeah. See, now if I didn't point that out, you wouldn't have noticed that.
You're right.
But hey, it works. It's a good photo. I think this is one of those examples that I'm talking about, getting something that you see all the time and making it look different. So a basketball hoop, a photo of a basketball hoop, it's no big deal. It's just a basketball hoop. But now that looks kind of cool. So this was done with the ReeXpose and edited in Lightroom, and there was a touch of retouch.
Okay.
Yeah, to get rid of some of the airplanes, and that's it.
Cool. I mean, okay, so go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Well, I noticed that there are some, almost all the ones you can see the stars are on the same plane, but I'm seeing little more lighter, or I should say fainter, dashes of light in different directions. Are those satellites?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Satellites is the majority of them. The aeroplanes, when they go through, they're a lot brighter and you can pull them out easier. But all the dotted ones that you see there, they're all satellites for sure. And the curves in the stars that you see, like the bottom left-hand corner, they're curving concave or depending on which way you look at it, I guess. They're basically opposite way to each other. So the top right is curving away from the bottom left, and that's purely where I'm pushing the camera to. If I pointed it to the southern pole, I'd have, and I've got some other photos which you'll see in the video. They're just perfect circles in the sky, and in the northern hemisphere you've got the what do you call that star up there?
The North Star? Or
Sirius?
No, I think the North Star's it. I was just total mind blank, and you'd think I would know that. You point this at that, and shoot for 2 hours. You're not going to have these curved like this. You're going to have perfect circles as well.
Concentric circles.
Yep.
Yeah. So what I was going to say
from.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Greg. Now I was wondering how far are you away from light pollution? Because
I'm a long way from light pollution.
Okay.
So
I just because of the basketball hoop, I wasn't sure if it was like a basketball court in the middle of nowhere or.
This is it's a weird thing, because this is actually in my backyard. It's on my driveway. This basketball hoop. I've shot a basketball through it once in my life, and and I think I'm the only person that's done it. Yeah, it's still there. I still have to mow around it every time I mow the lawn. You'd think I'd pull the bloody thing out. In fact, but because I use it so often for testing photos.
Uh-oh.
Nope, there we are.
There we go.
Yeah, you froze up there for a second, Shayne.
Well, it's just the Australian internet, mate. We've got bleeding edge technology down here.
Yeah, you froze up just after you said that you use this so much for testing photos.
Yeah. Just that's what it's such a good subject for doing this sort of photo. Why would I take it out? Yeah.
So I see that there's a shadow on the backboard from the hoop.
No, that's just a different hoop. That's a netball hoop.
On this part here,
I think I see what you're talking about, Greg. And on the front,
can you see my
mouse? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that would actually
see the
be
extra one in the back too.
Sorry. Yeah, now I'm with you. Sorry, mate. So in the direction that light would have come from is my neighbour's farm. So that's about.
Oh.
Did I just hear a cat?
No, I just said.
That was on my end. No. There. Leo said hi.
See, now I'm not sure how you want to title this podcast because you've had pizza, and I was thinking when you were talking about it, I was thinking you could title this podcast "ReeXpose." It's not all about pizza because that would get people clicking. But now you could do something with the cat, like backboards.
Leo makes his return.
There you go. Yeah, so there's a farm. It's probably a kilometre away where that light is.
Oh wow!
So that's that light. Just because it's so dark where I am, any light's going to be picked up. So I'm in a Bortle 3. My house is in a Bortle 3 location, but you could argue Bortle 2 or 3. It's right on the border, And I've got to drive for like maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get to Bortle 1. And it's like crystal clear skies. It's just sensational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say earlier that this, I mean, you've got a bit of the magenta cast around the edge, like you say, with the almost like a vignette here. One way to beat that would be to make this black and white.
Yeah, but
or do you think it would lose its pizzazz?
I think it does. I think anytime that I've done Astros sort of images that have been turned to black and white, it definitely loses something. But you look at those individual star trails, and I haven't edited them this way. That's how they are. Like they're different colors in that image. And that's cool to me. That's bloody cool. To have
it
like
is.
This star looks orange in this photo, and that one looks blue, and this one looks green. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really neat. So the third image is probably, I would say, a quintessential Shayne Mostyn astrophoto.
Yep, it is. This is with the 13 Pro Max, and as I've just seen it now on the big screen, I'm going to give some more away. So the tree that's on the left hand side there, you can't quite see it, but the basketball hoop is just behind that. And that bar that you see coming down, on an angle.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually my clothesline. So this is literally at my back door. And you can even see my cars parked out the back there. Like you can just make out the cars in the bottom part there. But this is absolutely like astrophotography is like, you could call it astrophotography. Like technically it's probably nightscape photography. Like there's foreground elements in there and you're still capturing the stars. Either or. Like, but it is the most basic and simple form of photography that exists. Once you know how to do it, you'll go, you know what? It's really not that bloody hard. And I'm just lucky enough that I go, I'm in a very good location to do this. So I'll go out one night, and when we come home, I'll look up at the sky and I'll go, wow, it's a nice clear sky. I'll quickly grab the tripod out of the back of the car, set it up while Sarah's going inside the house to, like, I don't know, we're going home or what sort of thing. And while she's like going in there to let the dogs out or do something, I'll just put the phone on a tripod, boom, because I can see that. I can see that galactic core in the sky. I know where the stars are to point the camera in which way. And I just put it on a tripod and go, boink, there you go. And bam, there's a photo. I'm just in a really, really good location to do it. And phones, especially the iPhones, man, you can't get more straightforward and simple to do this sort of photo with anything, really. You just put that on a tripod. It gives you 30 seconds once you've put it on a tripod, and that's what you get. Like, it's what a time to be alive, eh? Like, to do this,
it's amazing.
Before, it was so much harder to do. It is so much harder to do with a DSLR. There's a lot more to it, a lot more fine tuning, but it's still not that hard. It's just harder than this. This is very simple to do.
And this takes you all of about 30 seconds to edit too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my editing on this now is, even when I don't use my presets, it probably takes me, let's be realistic, 40 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to put a link to your channel in the show notes. If I find a video where it shows you editing a galactic core like this, I'll put that in there too, because it's a really cool process. And I mean, it's amazing to watch it happen. So it's just
I've got to be, when I do the videos, I'm very, very, very mindful to just slow down, because I'll just punch through that on my phone when I'm just doing it for myself, like this photo. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I'm doing it in front of the camera, I'm like, whoa, slow down, fella. People aren't going to follow what you're doing.
Yeah. It's it's a pretty cool process, and I've only done 2 or 3 like that because finding the galactic core is I mean, I don't live in a Bortle 2 or a Bortle 3 area like you do, but on a good night I could drive. I could drive for maybe 15, 20 minutes and get into a place that's pretty much like that. But I just got to get off my ass and do it.
We all get there, mate. We all get there, especially in winter. When in the summer here it's 45 degrees, and yesterday morning was -3. And I tell you what, you're lacking motivation to get out in that to go and take this.
I know. I hear you. So now we're going to check out some of Dave's photos from the last couple of weeks or so. And I love this one. I thought this was really cool.
I thought you were taking the piss out of my church photo for a minute. It looks like a reflection.
Now, this to me is one of the fun things about having the iPhone as a camera, is that they were just lying on the floor, just kind of it's warm and muggy here, not Australia hot, but it's warm and muggy here. So they're on the floor, they're just trying to cool off, and they just happen to be laying, literally right next to each other.
Yeah, and this is Dave's dogs that we're talking about here. Just in case you're not looking at your phone right now, but Charlie and Belle.
the poodle. Yep, Charlie the poodle on the left, Belle the Westie on the right, and they are so bonded together. I mean, when they sleep,
literally.
Oh yeah. I mean, literally, they crawl next to each other. Charlie, like our back patio is, we live on a split level, so we're downstairs a lot in the family area. But when they have to go outside, Charlie will go up, he'll wait for Belle, and they both go out together. And the only thing is, he particularly doesn't like outside. She loves to bake in the sun. I can't explain it, but it's just that they were just so perfect and just kind of lying, just kind of relaxing on the floor. And it was just one of those things. Like, this isn't an overly well lit area. This is in front of the TV. And we have one overhead light, which is kind of right overhead of them. And, Charlie's kind of half hidden by a table, in shadow. So it was able to pick up the, you could tell it did the processing. And of course, you can't walk in too close, because the minute you get too close to them, they both jump up and run towards you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to use the 3x zoom, so it's not as perfectly crisp, but it's more of the the not trying to get the perfect crisp photo, more of the just the adorableness of it.
Yeah.
And I love how their legs are positioned symmetrically the same.
Yeah.
Like
they just have their cross like that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah. That is a very fun photo. And you could almost crop, the bottom off to make it a 16:9 or some kind of a ratio where you could put that in a frame or something, because that's a keeper right there.
It's a perfect example of why phone photography is so cool. If you didn't have a camera in your phone, you wouldn't have got that photo. You would have had to go and find a camera to get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And like I said, especially the poodle Charlie, he's a bit on the hyper side. Not aggressive hyper, friendly hyper, as in, what are you doing? So if I would walk even closer to them or walk somewhere else, he would have saw it and he would have jumped up.
Yeah.
And it would have ruined it. So just the fact that I had my phone on me, it's like, oh, they're right there. Boom.
Yep. Yeah. That's funny. That's a cute shot. So this one is
this was taken in my backyard right after sunset. And the cloud, there was enough light, and this is facing west. So there was just enough light where the clouds were reflecting a little bit of the light after sunset. So I was able to get the clouds, our holly bushes in the foreground, and get some stars in the background too.
That's cool.
And,
now, was this a tripod shot, Dave?
I'm trying to remember. I want to say this was handheld. Yeah, this was handheld.
So probably 10 seconds.
Was handheld. Yeah.
10 or less.
10. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking whether it was 3 or 10. It may only be a 3-second one.
Wow. Even at 3 seconds, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, a lot of times, if I'm trying to take photos in the backyard, I'll use. I won't have a proper tripod. What I'll use is some of our patio furniture, prop up the phone on the chair, and either because they're not solid chairs, they're metal with the spacing, I can kind of get my finger in between and use the shutter button that way, or use the camera app.
Yep.
Or use the watch camera app. So I'll have it set up. I would do the watch camera app, let it do its thing, and then walk back towards it.
Yeah, cool.
I like the painterly look of the clouds. Excuse me. It's the leaves in the foreground of the bushes are crisp. The roof line is crisp on the house, but yet the clouds and stuff like that, they look really soft and almost like a water painting, watercolor.
Yeah. Well, that's also, I think sometimes with the 3 to 10 second exposure, the clouds just move enough that you're not going to get that crisp cloud.
Yeah.
In combination with being handheld.
I have a feeling this is a bit of that computational coming in here with those clouds.
Yeah.
If you shot that for 30 seconds, it probably wouldn't be as painty as it looks. It would be, it would layer it better, I think. I find that when I do, because I'll get the galactic core in a handheld photo of 10 seconds. It just doesn't, it looks very painted. But when in exactly the same situation, I put it on a tripod and I get a really nice, crisp galactic core. I reckon the clouds in this is doing the similar sort of thing. If you put that on a tripod, I reckon it would be just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
You said?
What's that, Shayne? Sorry, you broke up there for a sec.
Hold on, mate. My Bluetooth just went. There we go. We're back again. You say you were in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
So the light pollution there is pretty full on, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually in a suburb, officially Penn Hills, but we're right on the borderline between Penn Hills, Verona. But yeah, the light pollution, even though we're not in the city proper, we're only 7 miles away or so from the city center.
Yeah, okay.
So basically when I try to take any photos at all, I get a glow when I get near the horizon. So there's, and like I said, I'm not city center, but it's like I said, I'm facing west. Where I'm facing west, there's across the river, there's a shopping plaza, there's a hospital, there's other things in that direction. So and I pulled up that light map just to kind of see where I'm in one of the hot pink areas.
Oh.
So it's
okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are advantages of being, near a city, with some of the photos I can take of the city itself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
definitely.
having a dark area, I would have to drive, probably a good 15, 20 minutes away to get kind of dark area.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's still pretty cool to be able to just walk out to your backyard and take photos of stars, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that, you can do that without much without that much hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So this one is basically starless.
Right. Well, this was still bright enough. So this was right at sunset. With the
during golden hour.
Mm-hmm. And this was taken with the Reflex app.
Okay, cool.
So it's just, it's one of those things where this is where Samsung has an advantage over Apple of moonshots, because Apple still does not have the, to get a decent moonshot is a pain on an iPhone.
Yeah.
At least I find it to be a major pain. I can do it, but I have to underexpose it so much so the moon doesn't blow everything out. And I have to use a digital zoom because the 3x optical zoom isn't quite enough to get the details you want. And then all of a sudden you just have a picture of the moon without anything else there. And that's not as interesting as it could be. So hopefully with the iPhone 14, if they do have the 48 megapixel, they can add some additional detail, or the rumors of the 15. I know a year and a half away of the periscope zoom. But the fact this is actually out my front door. This is handheld again. And just kind of facing west. And just, I was able to get it where the moon itself is crisp enough where it isn't just a blur. And that's kind of what I was going for. And like I said, it was light enough in the sky. I don't know, with the visible eye, there wasn't really any stars you could easily see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the
gradient. And
Yeah.
The moon photos with iPhone are just, they've always been a problem. And you can see it when you go to that Facebook group, the Bloody Legends group. I don't even need to look at my app to find out when the full moon's coming, because all the Samsung guys just start putting full moon photos up.
Yeah, that is so true.
In saying that, when the iPhone 13 came out, all the iPhone guys were like, here's my eye. Really? The macro shots of the eye.
Yeah, that's right.
Camp. Yeah. But I've got some really, like, to do any sort of moon photography with iPhones, like that's probably one of the best ones that I've seen just from the camera on the phone. It's so hard to get it, but to get any sort of detail in that moon from an iPhone, you really need that scope, the telescope, binoculars, spotting scope.
Yeah,
whatever.
like a digiscope or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely need it. Yeah. The even the Samsung, once you go past 30 times zoom, it starts getting too computational. It's we're getting there though. Like, who would have thought, even with the Samsung, that, say 5 years ago, who would have thought that you could get awesome photos of the moon with a phone? It's just ridiculous. And even that photo that we're looking at here, even from an iPhone, that's bloody awesome. To see that crescent moon, that's that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Even with the phone lines and all that stuff in there, the hydro lines, it looks cool. It gives it character, I think. It gives a photo character. I mean, you could tell that you're in a suburban area, and I mean, there's no guessing. There's guessing where it was taken, but there's no guessing at the type of environment that you were in when you took it. And I think it adds character to it. So yeah, that's cool. Now I will dig up my 3 here. This one I call ironic because so this town that's about 30 miles west of us on the shoreline of Lake Huron. All along the shoreline, there's just not all along, but I mean, at this one part of the shoreline, there's this park area, and you can see in the background, there's a little set of train tracks where years ago, there used to be a little train that would take kids for rides, out through the park area and back to this little train station again. That thing has been non-existent for quite some time now, but the tracks are still there. And I heard that they're actually going to possibly revive that whole thing. But there's been a lot of trees that have been dead or fallen over or whatever. So the community got this guy to come in, and he does these chainsaw carvings. So he's basically stripped the bark off, down to a certain point. And any carving that you see here is done probably 98% with a, with a chainsaw. And this is a red-headed woodpecker, pecking on the tree.
Made of wood.
Made of wood. So I guess that would be Woody. and then below that, on the lower part of the trunk, it looks like a butterfly that he's carved into the trunk of the tree. So there was like all kinds of different sculptures that he's done. I mean, I didn't know which one to pick. But the reason I picked this one is because I took it with halide in their depth mode, so that the background is nice and blurry, and the sculpture itself really sticks out better, and you can actually differentiate it from the background. Excuse me. And so, I mean, there was one that was right by the water. This is along the shoreline. So there's one that was right by the water, and it was basically made out of a big piece of almost like driftwood, but it was a hand. And I'm going to put it on Instagram probably at some point, but it was just the shape of a hand like that. And it was really cool how this guy's done all this stuff. Like, he's done fish, he's done, there was a little cluster of trees where they were all cut off, and then he made them look like they were down at an angle and they were chewed down by beaver. And then he had a sculpture of a beaver there holding a Canadian flag. So it was really interesting how he's done all this. And there had to be like 24 of these different wood carvings throughout this area. And it's just really cool to see. And like he had one that was.
Why did you use that app?
Just because I wanted to get the depth, like almost like a portrait mode type of image, but I used halide.
So why did you? Yeah, sorry, go
on. Just because I think it does a better job than the iPhone in portrait mode.
Okay,
would have done.
Okay, because it looks like it's a bit confused in that back tree there, with the like delineating where the tree to the left and rear of the bird. When you look towards the top of the frame of the photo, it looks like it's confused a bit there. Not sure where to go. Up higher.
Okay, this one here.
Yeah. When you go to the top of that, see how it's blurred on the edges of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm wondering if I'm wondering
I see
if
where you're looking now. Up here?
Up there. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, I see.
If the regular portrait mode would do that or not.
Yeah, it's I never noticed that until you just pointed it out. But yeah, it's.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. But it's. I don't know why. Maybe it's just there wasn't enough contrast or something. You know what? I mean, I could have moved slightly, and that will affect the way these photos are taken. Because if there's any movement at all in these, when you're shooting a depth image like that or a portrait mode image, if you've got an edge, it will screw it up on you if you move. And I took this handheld.
I was talking with what's his name? Russell Brown, the Adobe guy. And I was talking to him in a conversation. I think it was offline. I don't know if it was a live conversation or not, but we were talking about different apps and stuff. And I'm going to say, unless it's a long exposure for star trails or anything over 30 seconds, basically, I find myself just using the regular camera app. And I look at it from, and I think I've heard you say it before, Greg, about Apple wants you to use something this way, and that's how I'm going to use it. And I'm kind of like that with the camera. If I'm just taking regular photos, I'm using the camera app on the phone. That's what it was designed to do. And I look at this and I go, I wonder, and to me, I'm just wondering how this photo, if it would have handled that rear tree better in the regular portrait mode. I don't know. There's a video I'm shooting at the moment of different ways to use the camera on the phone that you wouldn't necessarily use it for, and one of them is portrait mode to do some arty stuff. And I'm wondering if this would have handled it differently or better or not. I don't know. I'm just curious as to why we would have gone to an app that does it rather than the generic, well, the home brand one, if you like.
The
camera app. I don't know. What's your thoughts around that?
Basically, to be honest, there is no rhyme or reason why, other than maybe I thought, you know what, halide's been sitting pretty lonely for quite some time in my phone, and I've hardly used it since I've started using reflex. So I thought, okay, well, for this depth image, I'll open it up and use it. Other than that, really, there's no reason why I couldn't have used the Apple camera app.
Sure. Do you use an app to take photos, Dave, or do you use the regular camera app?
I normally use the regular camera most of the time. If it's an exceptionally challenging image, I'll occasionally try to use reflex, or I used to use Camera Plus for the before I got the 13 Pro. I used to use it for the macro mode. But the built-in macro is just does such a good job on the Pro Max that I'm not using it that often.
Yeah, sure.
So also, I this is just because of the amount of photos I take of the dogs and cats. Having that live photo is a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I was just curious as to what you guys use.
Oh yeah,
because I find I review that many apps and I use different apps in different videos and stuff, just like mainly to this is how you use it sort of thing. But I find myself going to the regular camera app 99% of the time for the photos that I take, with the exception of, like you just said, the challenging stuff. Like where it doesn't quite work, I want to have something there as a backup, or if I want to do a 2-hour star trail photo or a 10-hour star trail photo or whatever, obviously the regular camera app's not going to do that. But I was just curious as to why you went that way with this one, and we're just curious.
Yeah.
That was all.
I think I tend to use Reflex as opposed to the Apple camera app in my everyday shooting, because with it, I mean, I could see the exposure information and the histogram. Whereas with the Apple camera app, you don't have any of that. I mean, I could look at it and I can see what the ISO is, and if it's high, I can lower it to reduce the noise, and adjust the shutter speed or whatever to compensate for that. I think that's why I call myself a technical photographer, because I really do like the histogram. I'd like to make sure that I get all the data. I don't lose any by clipping off the highlights or the shadows, unless it's unavoidable. But but that's basically my thought process on it.
And I know, Greg, you like to shoot raw a lot more than I do.
That's true.
And it's partially where we came from, is that my background is instant cameras and 110 film and disc cameras, and I never owned a proper 35 millimeter camera film.
Okay.
So I don't come from that background where Greg did have the, you had the SLR and the DSLR, and you're used to coming from that standpoint, where I was coming from, a lot more point and shoot.
That does make a difference for sure.
Do you think that the point and shoot photographer is going to get more of a story than the technical photographer?
It depends, to be honest. It really does. Yeah. And it depends on what you're looking at. I know in terms of getting a scene set up and getting, how you want to get the shot with having the right eye. My wife does a much better job than I do.
Okay.
And but she was also more on the artistic side than I was. Yep. Just in terms of, like we shot our niece's wedding years ago. Was that 6-7 years ago? That was our wedding gift to him. So we did the show. We did the photography for her. And she's the one who, and we were using, I don't even think, I'm trying to remember if we may have had an iPhone. I had a 4S and she had a 4. So obviously we didn't use that. Even though I know people who did. Mark, we know people who did that, but we used. I used, it was a quote unquote ultra zoom. It had like a 20-30x zoom. I think it was a Panasonic camera, and she used an older one that we had. But she was the one who said, "Okay, do the shot this way. Stand here. Get them here." She was like the artistic director. Yep. And,
good. I think it's good to have both in that sort of situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So moving on to my second one here. This is one of my favorite waterfalls in the area to photograph. It's called Inglis Falls. And normally you would see the whole waterfall and then some if you just took a shot with the wide camera in the iPhone. For this shot, I was on a tripod, and I used my reflex telephoto over the 2.5 times telephoto camera on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. And so it's basically like, I don't know if you do the math, it's like I don't know, what is it, 125 millimeter or whatever it is. It's 65 millimeter plus the 60. So if that's how the math works, I don't know, but it really gets you in close anyway for the shot. And I used ReeXpose when I was testing it, and this is just a 1 second shot. And so with the telephoto lens, there's a wee bit of softness around the outside edges of the frame, and to help kind of counter that, I gave it just a little bit of a vignette. And but other than that, basically sharpening and a bit of saturation and whatnot to bring the greens out. There's some green moss on the rocks of the cascade and that. And I'm just really happy with the way ReeXpose caught that water. It almost looks like it's freezing in some of it, but it's definitely moving water. But it was only a 1 second frame, and I think the fact that the shutter speed itself, which was let's see if I can find it here.
I think I see.
100, 1 over 460. So that was, I don't know how many frames it would take, but the shutter was actually going at 1/460th of a second for each piece of the frame that it did. It's quite a complex thing, but anyway, it just makes the water nice and crisp. Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think it's almost a little overblown in here, but.
What was your ISO for that? Do you know? Was that in that info in the metadata?
That's a good question. Yeah, this particular piece of I'm looking at it in preview on the map, and I had just hit more info, but I could find it and let you know. But it was I do try to keep it as low as I can. I know that.
Yeah.
So, but my third one here, we were out, driving around, and we've been enjoying some nice blue, clear skies lately. And so this was at a place called Moreland, Moreland Place. So that's like a Moreland Place. Right. The guy that owns it, his last name is Moore, and he opens up his gardens for people to go through and just walk around and have a look. And he's got a maze in there and all this stuff, and all kinds of different things. But the house itself is old and very, very eccentric. It's got, different, places where little rooms, and it's a really cool place. He doesn't open it up inside very often, other than there's a thing called open doors, where a lot of these places will open up to the public for tours to go through in that. And it's very, very old inside, a lot of old artifacts and furniture and things like that. And this was just a shot with the telephoto camera, no lens. And I just wanted to kind of hone in on this one particular area, looking through the trees and shrubs and that, because I thought it was interesting how it was, contrasted against the sky. The sky was a bright blue, and the gray shingles and the faded white painted trim and all that stuff. I thought it had a very characteristic look to it. So this
is very cool. I'm actually, as you were starting to tell me that, I'm looking up this place as well to see what the rest of the building looked like. That's a very cool place, man. Yeah. This would be an awesome place for astrophotography and low light, like light painting and stuff. This looks very cool.
You could probably do it out where this is located. It's located outside of the city, probably about maybe 3 or 4 miles out of the city. So if you got a good night, a good clear night with absolutely no moon, I think there's enough trees and stuff around to block that light pollution. I think you'd probably get away with quite a bit. And now you got me thinking.
There's a lot of depth in this. There's a lot of depth in this photo. It's very cool.
Thanks.
Cool. So I love looking.
Sorry, Dave.
I would say like you said, the I guess the roof that's in front where there's the ball with the spike on it.
Yeah.
For the top or there, like a little round. I don't know if that's like a little round room there. And it honestly, it looks like at the very top of the I don't want to say top, but at the top of the roof where there's like a ball with tendrils coming off of it. I don't know if that's a lightning rod.
Yeah.
Up there.
It'd be a lightning rod.
Okay. But it just kind of of course it have put a little dawn on that, make it look like a little light ball would be neat too, but
yeah.
freak people out.
I suspect that's probably ceramic, I would think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
To act as a lightning rod. So I did find the ISO for that last picture. It was 20. ISO 20.
Oh, right. It's still got that blown out bit of water there.
Yeah, and I think if I'd adjusted the shutter speed a little higher, like a little faster shutter speed, it would have prevented that from being blown out so much.
Yeah.
If I can make a video like a Shayne Mostyn video, I would love to be able to explain all this stuff and how I do it. But I just don't have what it takes.
I haven't got what it takes either, mate. I'll just bullshit my way through it all, and it works.
I'd have 99% bloopers and 1% content.
I've got to tell you, Greg, I'm looking at this place that you took this photo. That's just like they've got like it's almost like a castle-looking place at the front of it.
I think that's actually the back.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Oh, so is it like a big concrete building with a big, almost like a big patio? Yeah. My son and my son had his wedding pictures taken out there. And it's a really cool place.
This would be awesome for light painting and stuff. It just looks amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to get permission from the guy that just a man that lives there all by himself, and he's the caretaker. It's his family home and all that stuff, and people leave donations when they go out there, just to help him support him, right? Because that's all he does, and I would have to talk to him and get permission to go out there after dark, I think. And maybe to do some light painting and stuff, because I'm sure he would probably freak out if he all of a sudden saw these flashlights whipping around. He'd probably think he's being invaded or something. But he's a real good guy. He's a real nice guy. We were talking to him that day for about 5-10 minutes, and he just slowly takes care of it, and do a little bit this day, do a little bit the next day, and all that stuff, and it's just a lot of character in the place, and there's a lot of concrete statues around and things like that, and it's pretty cool. I think I would have got a lot better photos on an overcast day, just because the sun and it produced so many harsh shadows and stuff.
Yep.
But it was a lot of fun. All right, well, I think we're going to call it a night, guys. I don't even know.
We've only been going for 2 hours.
Is that all? And I can't believe my microphone still works. Usually I'll silence or something.
The joy of the new computer.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right. Well, it's about a year old, but yeah, it's
okay.
Fairly new. It's one of those M1 iMacs.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So all right. Well, Shayne, tell everybody where they can find you. And that was my voice cracking, not my microphone.
You can find me at 307 Curvins Road, Kahuna. Or online, you can find me on YouTube, Shayne Mostyn Mobile Photography, ShayneMostyn.com. I'm Shayne Mostyn pretty much everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, all that sort of bizzo. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay, we'll have links to that stuff in the show notes. Dave, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as ProfPod and on TikTok as ProfPodPGH.
All righty. You can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo, on Twitter, Macmillan_photo. And I used to have a website called shotoniPhoneonly.com, but I've changed that. It's the same site, just a different name. It's now if you want to go there, it's just Macmillan.photos. Little shorter, little easier to say. And like I say, it's the same old website, but you can find all my links at about.me/Macmillan. So, well, thanks, Shayne, for coming on. It's been an absolute treat having you on, and can't wait to do it again sometime. I think maybe you should. Do you want to plug what's coming up on Friday?
On Friday?
Yeah.
My Friday or your Friday?
Your Friday.
So you
the live.
That's my Saturday.
Or your Saturday. Your Saturday, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so
Friday, your Saturday.
We didn't do live last time it was due. This time I'm bringing on that English bloke who talks a bit funny with red hair, and we'll see where he's been for a while. So if you want to tune in, it's pretty much just like this, but with visuals. Because this is just a podcast, right? I hope so, because I've been eating pretzels slowly as we've been going through the whole show. I just mute my microphone so you don't hear the crunching.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So it's basically like this. The way that I think you've described it, and I think it's pretty accurate, is that it starts out really well, it goes to plan, and then it just turns to shit with just gibberish talk, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. The insults fly, and the YouTube police have to start turning their ear this way, and
well, every time I upload a video,
it's a lot of fun.
You have you upload it. It says, "Oh, does your video have this, or this?" And I always just go, "No, I'm a good boy. No." And
is this made for kids? No.
No. I always have a bit of a chuckle to myself, because then it says your accuracy on these questions are high, so we don't need to review them. Like, suckers.
Yeah. There you go. Alrighty, so watch for that on Friday. For us in the North America, it's on a Friday. In Europe, it'll be Friday evening. In Australia, it's Saturday, and it is a lot of fun. And again, just go to Shayne's YouTube channel with the link in the show notes, and bloody well subscribe. Then you can be a bloody legend.
Thanks, mate.
And check out the Facebook group and all that stuff. So it's a great community, and yeah. So all right. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining, and sorry for keeping you up so late, Dave. I know you got to get up tomorrow.
Yeah.
But and you know what? I should have put this on at the beginning, but oh well. This is a couple of days late coming out because our regularly scheduled recording time would have been Monday, July 4th. And because it was the holiday, you would have heard us talking amongst fireworks. So that's why we're a couple of days late. So anyway, I guess we will see you all on the next one. Okay.
Large print and ReeXpose. And
yeah. My note was just hidden behind the Zoom window. Okay, 1, 2, 3. On this episode of the podcast, we talk about making large prints from iPhone files. We talk about a new app called ReeXpose. It's a long exposure app from the makers of Reflex that shoots raw long exposures. Then we look at our recent photos. And we have a guest with us. I should have put that first. Duh. All right, I'm going to get it right this time. You're laughing your ass off. I can see you.
I should be recording this.
Yeah, you probably should. I might just put it on at the end. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now that I'm being recorded, I'm nervous. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm going to go with it.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, Dave, really important question for you.
Yeah.
What is that thing? Is it a banana? On your right?
Hold on, let me get it. Hold on. It is a painting I got. So you're either happy or not happy.
That's cool.
Awesome. And you just happen to have a banana shirt on today.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes,
it was color coded. We got this a new doormat. You know that Journey song, "Don't Stop Believing."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Our doormat says, "Don't stop, be leaving."
Oh.
The banana thing just reminded me of it. It's the same sort of humor.
Oh, that's good.